Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Nick Drinks. I am your host, Nick Britsky. We are back in the studio after a successful run at the Golden Jiggers, and I'm going to welcome to you a local friend. This is Francesco S. Viola. He is the founder of Luca Mariano. Hello.
Hi. Hey. How you doing?
Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm a big fan of yours.
Thank you so much. We are both Sicilian brothers here. This is how my hair would look if I grew it long. So thank you so much for bringing your products. We're actually going to do two videos because you have so many things to try.
Okay.
The first thing, do you want to do the bourbon or the rye first?
So let's start with the bourbon.
Okay, perfect. Okay. And we got the name here, Luca Mariano. Give me a little bit about the history. How did you get started in this? You're based in Michigan, but the product's not made here, correct?
That's correct. Okay. So when I was going through the licensing and looking at it, was only going to be here in Michigan. It wasn't going to be anywhere else. Okay. And so I was going through the licensing, and in Michigan, it was just a lot going on.
Sure.
And then while I was waiting and doing and getting everything set up, I started to realize that Michigan straight bourbon doesn't have the same ring as Kentucky straight bourbon.
Sure.
And when I started looking into Kentucky and I started making friends there, I fell in love with Danville, Kentucky. Yeah. And so I decided that that's where we're going to make our product and build our distillery and have that be our future home. And that's kind of that's how we landed in Danville.
I dig it. And so you bought a farm?
Yeah. So what started off, we've pieced together, I think now about 7 pieces of property. Okay. But it's the original land that we're about 1 piece short of bringing together the original William Crowe farm. And William Crowe was from the 1700s. He fought in the Revolutionary War, and the farm was established before our country was a country. Okay. And so it's a really beautiful home. It's got rolling hills. It's just a really unique spot inside Danville, the city of Danville, even though it's real country looking.
That's great.
It's cool. There's a lot of history there. And then there's also a guy named Guy Jones that lived there during Prohibition. He was one of the last barnstormers, and there's an airstrip that is still recognized, and he used to run moonshine that he made in a silo there, and there's tunnels there. We've uncovered the tunnels, and there's some of the scraps of his still in the silo there. And it's really cool because he was really smart because he has these little windows going all the way around. So as the smoke goes up or had gone up, it would puff out. And so you wouldn't see this big trail of smoke going up.
Neat.
And so there's a lot of things that when we open to the public, we're going to be able to tell those stories. And so it's all well documented. He flew to Ontario and picked up, whiskey and different things there and brought it to Michigan and all over the country. He just had a good thing going, dropping it from the air.
Which is funny because Michigan has such a great tie to Prohibition because we're so close to Canada.
Right.
It's interesting to think of people going all the way from Kentucky to Canada and flying back because you can't do both.
Right.
So that's a lot of fun.
Like in the 1920s. I mean, who had a plane back then? I mean, it's just unique,
Your family is actually involved in Prohibition and has a history in this, correct?
That's correct. Yeah. So my great grandfather in Sicily, he got involved with the wrong people, I guess, and he he ended up. He was in debt to the mafia.
Okay.
And so during that time period, they sent him to America. He had a special skill, and they had him running liquor and making moonshine.
Oh, that's fun.
So he was in this area. He was in New York, Chicago, and he spent a lot of time in Canada as well.
And it's funny because when you said my grandfather's still, you said it so nonchalantly. Like, yeah, everyone doesn't. Don't they have a still?
Yeah, of course, don't they? Well, spending some time in Kentucky, you see a lot of those.
Well, right. And sometimes they're hidden in the woods, though.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, well, let's start. So we want to start with the bourbon?
Yeah, let's start with the bourbon. So this here is the bourbon. It's the old Americana.
As it rolls around.
Small batch.
Okay, and, so we got 83 proof. Tell me about the mash bill.
Okay, so it's a rye bourbon.
Okay.
It's more than 51% corn and about 24% rye. Okay. And then the small part is malted barley.
Malted barley.
Yep.
Okay. Well, cheers. Thank you for coming out.
Yep. Thank you. Yep. So for me, the goal for this was to make an introduction to for Luca Mariano for the bourbon, and I want it to be drinkable. Something that you can drink every day, enjoy, but you could spend your evening drinking it and not getting blasted.
Right. So I'm a fan of this. This is very easy drinking. While it is a high rye, it doesn't have that hit your head over the spice. It's really pleasantly balanced with the corn. There's a nice sweetness in there. There's almost like a floral, like a light honey flavor to it. The nose has a little bit of the corn on it, but almost like a little bit of a citrus.
Yeah, maybe like an orange.
Yeah,
Orange peel.
yeah, like a sweeter citrus. Really, really easy drinking.
For me, it kind of dances all over your tongue.
Yeah.
And you don't need to take a big sip to get the flavor, and that's why you can really sip it for a long period of time as well. And then for me, you don't have to sip it again because that taste lingers for 20, 30, 40 seconds. And I don't know, I was really happy. You know, I spent 4 years developing the recipe, and here in Michigan, in my garage. And
with your still,
with my still, with my grandfather's still, which is, if you see it's something else. It's, you know, these big pasta, you know, boiling bowls, and you just flip it upside down with a copper pipe, some things. But then I ended up getting a small still from Vendome, and it's great. It's perfect. And but I spent 4 years developing in my garage in Northville, and in the beginning it was just a hobby. Wasn't supposed to ever turn into this. When I had some neighbors over, I was smoking some meat and had some ribs on, and I was making some whiskey, and I said, hey, why don't you guys come over? Started doing shots off the still, having a great time, and my buddy's like, you know, his brother and I went to Michigan State together, but he's like, you know, this is highly illegal. You can't be doing this in your garage. And I mean, he's just one of those types, jokes.
Just like FYI.
FYI, you know, and he kept poking me. I thought he was just joking around. Had no idea, didn't even think about it being illegal. And so I said, you know, I'm going to check. So I called up my attorney and I asked him about it, and he said, yeah, it's illegal. Can't do it. Can't do it. So I said, well, give me my license. What are you doing?
Right.
You know, come on.
So, and that's when you went down the process of trying to get one in Michigan, that it wasn't feasible, so it's Kentucky.
It took time.
Okay.
And during that time, you know, it became a passion of mine. So I started going to different shows and started touring around and meeting people. And as I got into it, I really made good friends in Kentucky. And I made good friends with the guys at Vendome, and, you know, they kind of steered me in the right way. And they, you know, they really were big influence in the early years. And so I said, you know what, Kentucky's great. You know, you've always just kind of passed by it on the way to Florida, you know, unless you're into bourbon. And when you really get to know it, and you're walking around and you see Louisville, seeing the outskirts, and you go to Lexington and seeing the outskirts, it's a great place.
Absolutely.
People are wonderful. And so
it's interesting when you talk about that, because a lot of people in the beer scene, they got started with homebrewing because that was illegal as of, you know, a couple of years ago. But for someone to be a distiller, there really isn't that avenue to do it. You would really have to go to a place that had a still, go to some sort of place. So to do it in your home like that, you know, really kind of is this ideal solution. Do you feel like there is a sharp learning curve to do that? Do you ever feel like, you know, if you're going to drink some of the heads, you might hurt yourself? Or
Of course, yeah. I mean, in the beginning, even though my grandfather taught me how to distill, you know, he taught me in the 80s. I mean, I was just a little kid, you know, and you know, in the 90s, and then he passed away in 99. That's when I inherited his equipment. And so it sat there for all those years.
Sure.
And then I bring it on 2010. I mean, I had the ability. He taught me, and I remembered everything. But, you know, at the same time, it was a learning process again, all over again. And so, you know, you drink some of that heads, and, you know, and then you drink some of the tails, and it's like, what is this, you know? And you really had to dial in on where that heart, you know, the hearts began. And so it was fun. My garage was great. I used as fermenters 50-gallon coolers. Okay. And so food grade coolers, and just put them in there and just kept going, doing all these batches. I had 8 batches going at a time. And it was you know, when I was doing it, I thought this is probably the most fun I'm going to ever have with the business. And it was, but I mean, getting out there, I keep having more and more fun each and every time. Right. But just sitting there in your garage doing it, staying up with a late night run until 2 a.m. and drinking some of the stuff you made last week. It was a little good time. I really enjoyed it.
Garage doors open, closed?
I did most of it in the winter months, so they're cracked. Okay. But
you didn't have people like pedaling by on a bike, being like, "What's happening in there?"
You know, nobody knew. I didn't tell anybody. I mean, I did. My one neighbor did, and after I found, I said, "Come on, man, let's keep it quiet for now." And my one neighbor beside me, I did end up telling him. His wife died in a tragic car accident, and so I was like, "Hey, man, you know, you want to come over and
toast your wife?"
Toast. And he goes, "Oh my God!" He goes, "I feel so good that you know." I now know because he saw these strange people coming out of my house all the time. Because like I had I had some of my employees that I work with, some friends.
Yep.
And he's like, we didn't know what was going on. My wife and I were always talking, what's going on over there? And so he was happy. But then, we had a nice little salute to his wife.
All right, well, let's move on to the rye.
Okay.
Talk a little bit about this.
So this is a high rye.
Okay.
This is 95%.
What makes it a high rye? Is there anything over 51%?
No, it's pretty much 100% rye.
Okay, so it's very high.
It's just all, rye, yep. We will have another rye coming out, down the road. We have several recipes for bourbon and rye, but we will have 55% rye, which is still fantastic, but more mellow than this. Okay. This is a high rye. You're going to taste the rye.
Oh. Like a candy nose.
Yeah,
yeah, it's definitely rye. But it's pleasant, though.
Right.
Again, it's not like a spice bomb. It's really mellow. It's engaging. But then, the spice lingers and hangs out. Super approachable. This, I think sometimes the high ryes can be scary, especially if you're not ready for that spice. Maybe because the proof's at a very reasonable level, too. This is incredibly approachable. Both of these are very approachable.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the things that I really love, one of my vices, I love coconut. Okay. And I taste a little hint of coconut at the very end. I don't know if you do or not, but to me, it was a pleasant surprise once it aged and we were ready to bring it to market. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I drink coconut every day.
I could be convinced.
You could,
I could be influenced into drinking that.
Yeah. Cool.
Great. Well, this was a lot of fun. Why don't we talk a little bit about more the products available in Michigan for sure?
Okay.
Visit any other states?
Yeah. So we're in Michigan. Okay. That's where we spend most of our time this year. We launched this past April.
Congrats.
Thank you. Yeah. It took 9 years to get to this point, and it was hard to patiently wait. Right. But it was the right thing to do. Yep. We wanted to come out with a product that was at least 4 years old. And we have other recipes. They'll be 5, 6, 7, 8 years old at some point in time. Great. But so we're in Michigan, we're in Kentucky, we're in Nashville mainly, but all over the state of Tennessee. Just we're asked, and we just sold our first bourbon in North Carolina. Great. And so there's other states that we're talking to. New York's one of them. Good. So looking at New York and maybe Ontario and Italy this upcoming year. That's fun. Yeah, so it's exciting. So if someone was watching this and wanted your product, is there a recommended way to do that? Sure. Yeah, go to lucamariano.com. Okay. And it's go to locations, and you can find wherever you want to find it in Michigan. I think we're in over 300 locations now. Great. So it's really anyone that's tried it, they brought it in. And we have tastings that we're doing around Detroit area every weekend. So just look and see what we're doing, and come find us. That's great. So we're going to break this up into 2 videos because we have another product to try. We're going to hear more about the band. He was also a Michigan State grad. He was passionate about music just like me. We both did a bunch of fun stuff during that time. And that is everything that I have to talk about for this video. Tune back in for the next one. You have been watching Nick Drinks. You can find more of me at nickdrinks.com, youtube.com/nickdrinks, and nickdrinks.com spelled out on Facebook. Thanks so much. Cheers.